Today is a particularly special episode. We are here with Heather Stenson, who is the Rookie of the Year winner, as recognized by 2024 RAS Media. Heather closed an astounding 62 transactions in her first year, equaling $15.3 million. Join us to hear the true story of how she did it, starting as a teacher, becoming a part-time agent, and then finally transitioning to full-time. You won't want to miss her tips for the aspiring agent.
Welcome to Unlocking Real Estate, My First Commission, where we dive into real stories, big wins, and early lessons learned from highly successful rookie real estate agents and brokers. This is the podcast where we explore how real estate transforms lives, one home at a time, by sitting down each week with a new agent or broker who has found incredible success in their first year. Your hosts are instructors and leaders at Colibri Real Estate School, one of the largest real estate educators in the nation, where we focus on helping people like you get started or find continued success in their careers.
Hello, and welcome to Unlocking Real Estate, My First Commission, brought to you by Colibri Real Estate. I'm your host, Tina Lapp. I've been in real estate education for over 30 years. I was originally licensed in 2002. My passion is helping individuals enter and thrive in their real estate career.
Hey everybody, welcome. We're excited to have you on the show today. I'm Andrew Robinson. I lead product for Colibri Real Estate.
We are here today with Heather Stenson. Heather, will you take a moment to introduce yourself, where you live, and what company you're with?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Heather Stenson. I'm with Connect Realty, and I'm from the Woodlands, Texas.
And Heather, thanks for being with us today. I'd love to hear a little bit about your background and what you were doing before you became a real estate agent.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's like my favorite story because it's very unique to a lot of agents that have always had parents or grandparents or aunts or uncles that were involved in real estate. My mom was involved in real estate for 25 years and she still is, but it's a little different. I told her I would never want to be a real estate agent. Every Christmas, she was always on the phone, Thanksgiving, Easter, every single holiday. I was like, that is miserable. But then I went in and I taught education. So you kind of had to weigh your pros and cons. You're like, okay, should I be on the phone or should I teach kids? What should I do? And it was a blessing in disguise. It was just something that was unique. And I guess when you are used to managing property management, because that's what I did all through high school. I helped my mom out with that, and foreclosures were a big thing in her time. And so we just had a lot of experience in the real estate market. And I went to college and I was like, okay, I'm going to be a teacher. I'm going to be different. It's going to be fun. It's going to be unique. And then I got my first teaching check and I was like, oh, this hurts. How am I going to pay for my bills and my shoes? And I was like, okay, but you really have to love it to be a teacher. If you are there and it's such a hard job that is underappreciated because you're dealing with households and environments, and there's just so much emotion attached to it, which is similar to real estate. So it kind of helped battle that back and forth just to have that conversation and that opportunity to help and serve. So it was just a unique start. And I was grateful to have the opportunity to use my teaching career to make it to where I am today in real estate.
That's wonderful. And later I'll ask you about how many shoes you now have.
Right.
So you were teaching, and then that led you to real estate. Let's dive a little bit deeper there.
Okay.
What inspired you to pursue a career in real estate when you're working as a teacher, other than the paycheck? What attracted you to a career in real estate?
Well, absolutely. So my dad had stage 4 lung cancer a year ago. And it was one of those deals where I was sitting in the VA hospital and I was confused because I was like, wow, you never realize how life is so short until you're watching somebody lose their life in cancer or whichever. And I was like, I really just don't love my job. And I was sitting there and I'll never forget it. This guy was having a tantrum. He was so mad. And if you know anything about the VA hospitals, they just give you some medicine and you go nighty-night. And I was like, no, this guy's really in pain. and like he needs help. Like, what can you do to help him? And his family was sitting out there talking like, okay, my real estate agent isn't helping. Like, it's just been very bad. My dad's not doing well. They need to sell the house. And I was like, okay. And this was the time where I was like halfway through my real estate school, but wasn't completed. And I was like, okay, this is probably God telling me, like, this is the path you need to take. Like, you're listening to these people that are struggling. They're in the VA hospital and their dad's not doing well. And these families are like trying to get the proper steps. And the agent's like, well, you know, when he dies, like, whatever. And your heart's just breaking. You're like, no, like, okay, you need to go do this or you need to go that. So I sat there and I talked to this lady, and she was like, your love for veterans and how you help people is truly like immaculate, and you should really take a dive into like this career. And I was like, oh wow, maybe I should. So I prayed about it, and I realized I wasn't happy teaching anymore. Like, I just realized like it wasn't my passion, it wasn't my love. And so I really took that chance and dived into it. I was teaching like all day long, from 4 a.m. till 3 o'clock when the kids left. And then I would go to school from 7 to about 10. And I would get all my hours in and take my test on Thursdays. And Friday would be my off day, but it would just be a rest to prepare for the next class. And so it's just all been like such a blessing in disguise. Like, when you pray about it and you give it all to God, you're like, wow, this is the path that I needed to take. Because I mean, it's just so crazy. You just realize in that moment when things are in the rough and you're like, this is sad, this is scary. And usually that's when your decisions of what you're going to do in your career come to life.
Totally makes sense. So you were teaching and going to school in the evenings. I imagine this was taking a tremendous amount of time for you. Like, how'd you balance all that?
Well, you don't have any friends when you're living in that kind of environment. You know, and it was kind of like you weren't able, and it's hard because I just turned 25 the other day, and it was something that you're like, okay, my friends are out, my friends graduated, I graduated college early. It was just one of those things where you're just like, oh, I want to go live that life, but you have to be disciplined, and you're like, you know, I can't go out to eat with you, I can't go to the movies. And you realize that now in real estate, that discipline you had in school, that's really what you have now, because you don't have the social life like when you're teachers. You have Saturday and Sunday off. I have not had a Saturday and Sunday off in probably a year and a half. And my friends are like, you never want to hang out. And I'm like, well, our Saturdays and Sundays are your Monday and Tuesdays. So it just kind of restarts. Just one of those things that it's just different. And it's just been the school and the atmosphere just really helped me stay disciplined, stay focused, and get to my point where I needed to be.
Well, that makes sense. And I think we hear that pretty repeatedly, that like discipline and focus is really important in real estate. You mentioned your school. How'd you choose the school that you went to?
So I went to Sam Houston State University. I'm actually an agricultural business major. So I went in and I minored in secondary education and financial analysis. Of course, ag financial analysis, if you could ever believe that's a thing. But it is. And so it's been really rewarding. I grew up showing cattle, and we were very involved in 4-H and FFA. And we bred cows to show and to sell. And of course, the sad part to eat. And that's just the unfortunate part of some of it. But it was just that was the career I took, and I was super excited. I always wanted a business degree, but with my scholarships, it had to be an agricultural focused deal. And Sam, I have really bad ADHD. So when I went to go tour A&M, I was like, oh my gosh, look how many people are in this building. Like, I wonder how many fit in this stadium. And it was too much. So I ended up going to Sam Houston for the smaller one-on-one personal connections. And it was the second best school in ag, in my opinion.
So you went ag into teaching into real estate. That's an unusual journey, I would say. There's probably not many people who followed that path.
Well, not really. It was an agricultural teacher, so I stayed on the same path. And now I'm lucky. A lot of the people that we grew up and showed with, and they're calling me and they're like, okay, let's go look at ranches, or let's go look at commercial property, or stay in those environments, which it's like your atmosphere and your sphere of influence really matters, especially when you're involved in so many deals and activities and just being passionate, when you find people that have the same passion that you do, it makes it so much easier in your job, and they come to you because people use who they know, like, and trust.
So, Heather, you took your real estate classes. Talk about some of the challenges as you went through your real estate classes and you were balancing teaching at the right time, at the same time, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so, how did you transition once you got your license? You were still teaching part time. What were your expectations going into that first year and balancing real estate and teaching?
So I set unrealistic high expectations for myself, and it's a curse and a blessing. I always tell myself I'm probably going to have a stroke by the age of 50. But it's just, I'm so goal motivated, and I've always been that way. It's terrible. But it's just one of those deals where I sat there and I was like, okay, I want to close 20 transactions. And my broker and my mom, they both looked at me and they said, do you know the average first agent closes like one? And I was like, I'm going for 20. And I was like, I'm going to get there. So I finally closed 20. And then I was like, okay, I'm at 20. Let's go to 40. And so it was just very rewarding. So when I got out of school, it was honestly probably the most unhealthy lifestyle I've ever lived. I forgot to eat. I was glued to my book. When people ask me, can I have your real estate book? I wanted to get my real estate. It's literally falling apart. It's highlighted so many times. It's just, you can't use it. It's not reusable. And it was my conference period. I was in my book studying, reading the answers. Like, I was terrified. And as I said earlier, my teaching test, I could never pass it. So I have like this testing anxiety. So I was highlighting, I was circling, I was writing it down. I have 4 notebooks that probably say the same thing over and over. And I took all the practice tests nonstop. So it was like, I didn't take a lunch. I didn't take it was just, I took prep 6 times before I took that test. And it was just crazy. Like, the entire point of getting the license, it wasn't a lot of eating. It wasn't a lot of socializing. It was very glued to the book until I got it done.
And you did it. Congratulations. So at least that's one test you've mastered at this point. So then how did you sort of make the decision to go from part-time to full-time? And how did you sort of launch that transition into real estate full-time?
Well, it was terrifying because when you are used to having insurance and retirement and everything, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm giving this up. And so it wasn't like, I taught for 4 years. So it was like, okay, what am I going to do? This is a steady paycheck. But I was doing it while teaching. So I was still full-time teaching. I was still full-time real estate. I was never wanting to tell my clients like, hey, I'm a teacher. I didn't want them to think of me differently. So I just made sure every appointment was after work. So it was like 4 or 5. So some nights I wouldn't get home till 10 o'clock because I was showing in Pasadena, which is an hour away. And it was just one of those crazy atmospheres. And I was like, okay. And I finally had to come into my brokerage. I took the day off work. I was sick, which, sorry, if my school sees this, I was not sick. I was just trying to come to reality. I was like, okay. I came in here and I scheduled a meeting with my broker. And I said, what do I do? And she says, you're doing more production than my full-time agents. And what are you scared about? And I said, well, I just bought a house and I think like it could go into foreclosure or I could live under a bridge. And she's like, okay, but it's not. Like, you're not going to do that. And I was like, okay, but my insurance, what if I get cancer? And she's like, no, like, you're not going to get cancer. You're not going to do this. And you always think of the what ifs, and that's the hardest part. And so I was like, okay. And so then you get your renewal contract in your email and they're like, are you signing? Are you not signing? And you're like, I don't know. So it was kind of like a scary point in my life. And I honestly just had to pray about it. And then I realized how much more time in a day when you're not stuck in a classroom for 8 hours, how much you can conquer and go out and truly serve. And a lot of my business is veterans. And it's just so rewarding because it's like, oh my gosh, you were a Navy SEAL or you were an Air Force pilot, or it's just so incredible. Like the lady, we bought a cow last night. She's 90 years old. She was the first lieutenant I've ever met that was a woman for that time frame because she said women were not lieutenants. And she said, I know you. And I was like, you know me? And she goes, yeah, you're the realtor that does veterans. And I was like, oh, that's incredible. And you just don't get that when you're sitting there at the teachers and you're talking to teachers. They don't go, oh, you're that teacher that taught my kid. But like they know that you're serving. And that's our motto is we are here to serve those who have served.
That's awesome. And you focus on veterans, and early on, how did your teaching career play into launching your real estate career?
So I went in and I taught in a kind of dangerous school district. It wasn't the best. It was low income. The kids were kids that you were like, okay, please don't go to jail, or like, please don't do things in my class that you're not supposed to do. And it was kind of like the reality where you're like, okay, this kid is intimidating, but we're going to keep going. And so I sat there and I was like, I went to the turnover for teachers was so bad because the kids were not like, they didn't have a good home life, or they didn't have a good role model, or it was just very sad. So I went to my principal and I said, I will cut you a deal. And he was like, oh no. And I was like, no, like just hear me out. And he was like, okay, what do you want? And I was like, I want to do a first time home buying seminar. And maybe we can move the teachers closer to the school, because a lot of them commute an hour. They didn't want to live in the community that we taught in, and which was understandable. And I was like, okay. And he was like, okay, well, where are they going to move? And I was like, well, they can move to the next town. And he was like, okay, well, tell me how this is going to go. And I said, well, a lot of teachers just don't know they make enough money to afford a house. Like they don't know they make this money, or they don't know like the environment or how it's done. So let me teach them, because they're my age, and we can walk them through. And some of them have never bought a house because they just don't know. So I got a title company, I got a loan officer, and I got an inspector, and we all did a big presentation. I had pre-approvals going in and out the door. They sat down and sat with their loan officer, and they were getting their pre-approval as they were sitting there. And then they had your business card, they had the inspector, they had the title company, and they're like, oh my gosh, we're going to buy a home. Like, I qualify. So it was just like you became that realtor that the school knew and the district knew. And so you became like the school realtor.
That's incredible. Like, what a great way to connect your two worlds together. That's great. So what were some of your biggest challenges during this time, other than the limited time in a day, right? And being exhausted.
Absolutely.
But what were some of the biggest challenges, and how'd you overcome them?
Some of the challenges that I still face, and it's till this day, and sometimes I have to bring my mom with me, and I'm like, you get to come, and she loves it. She's like, oh, I get to come. She's trying to retire, so I'm always like, you can't retire just yet. I still need you. And so she does a lot of transaction coordinating for me as well, and she's still running the team and making sure, but it's been super awesome. But the challenges is just being young, especially when you're dealing with different platforms and different people. They're like, oh, how long have you had your license? Or aren't you a little young? Do you know? Like, and that's the challenge of just being a young agent, is because they want somebody who might be older with more experience. But then some people see it as, okay, well, this agent is ready. They're motivated. They're hungry. They're ready to go get it. And they'll hire you. But some agents, you just have to have that happy medium. And it's just like, that's the hard part. The challenge is just being young and 25 years old. And it's just, they're like, okay, you're not 30. Okay. Like, and you're just like, it's okay. Like, I have the experience. So it's just, that's one of the challenges I face.
So Heather, thinking about your success, I think it's a little bit about your, what you worked on with teachers and first-time home buyers, what the work you've done with veterans. What other what are the strategies and tactics you used to achieve success so quickly?
I think when you're a teacher, you're gonna have to have a mandatory schedule. So and it's very bad. My house is color coordinated. I swear it's awful. It's literally, we start work at 6:30. 6:30 is the quiet time to go through emails, make sure offers are signed and files are put up. And then 7 gets a little hectic because people are starting to call, get ready for work. And then you have to beat the time the title company opens at 9, because the moment that title company opens, it's just haywire the rest of the day. So 9 o'clock. So it's very being disciplined, just making sure you're disciplined in what you do, make sure you're on schedule. And I preach this to the choir and to every new agent that asks me, is you have to have a good CRM. You're going to have so many people that you're going to say, oh my gosh, who is this person? What are they in? And you're just like, okay, I don't remember our conversation, because that's just real estate. They're ready in 3 months or they're ready now. It just kind of depends. And I truly believe when you master a CRM that fits your needs, that it is game changer, because you're able to keep up, do birthdays, do follow-ups, do customer appreciation invites. And I've been on 2 CRMs, and the one I'm on now, I wake up every day and it's like I use it nonstop. I'm like, this is my Bible to real estate, is this CRM.
That totally makes sense. You mentioned starting off how important your circle is. Is that how you got started? Is that where you began, besides reaching out to the teachers?
Yes. So your circle is so important. So I always tell people, especially in the Woodlands, we're kind of overpopulated with agents. I think the statistic is 1 out of 3 people is a realtor. So it is very intense. So you're like 1 of 3. So you're like, okay, who am I going to get in where they call me? Like, I work this area. I don't want to pay referral fees. I want to have like organic leads. And so when you're looking into that environment, you want to make sure you're partnered with like a great loan officer. And when you come to mind, you want to meet 5 people. And this is what I tell everyone and what I do every day. I go on Facebook, and it's the best strategy. You're like, oh my gosh, like somebody's going to post on their story. Start the conversation on their story. Like, hey, like, that's great. I love your dog. Cute pictures. The kids looked great. And then they're going to respond. And you just say, well, how are you? How's your job? What are you doing? And 90% of the time, they're going to be like, oh, I'm good. How about you? And you can mention like, oh, I'm in real estate. I love it. Like, where are you living? Like, are you thinking about moving? Like, what's your situation? And the amount of business I get from like Instagram and Facebook and just check-ins, it's just, if you reach out to 5 people a day, that person knows 5 people. And that person knows 5 people. So your name is consistently getting thrown out. Oh, I have a friend. She's a realtor. You should call her. And then it's just reaching out. And it's so little as 5 people. Like, and it's not something hard. Like, we all get on Facebook. We all get on Instagram. And it's just something simple that keeps you top of mind without being salesy, because you're checking in, you're caring, and you want to make sure that they know that you're a realtor. You don't want to be a secret realtor.
I love how you've got that strategy to go keep in touch with these people that you know. Do you have any interesting stories about a client interaction or something that's happened that stand out to you that you want to share?
Oh man, you want the good or the bad?
Or the funny, whatever makes sense.
Or the funny. No, so I deal with a lot of veterans, and so I had a guy, and he was awesome. He was a Navy SEAL, and I will never forget. We had his house listed, and he goes, the clients are sitting outside to show his house. Well, when you're in the Navy SEALs, you have a lot of equipment that you need to get out of the house before you show. So he's walking out with all his equipment that are big, and they go ba-boom. And the lady was like, oh my gosh. And so I'm getting a call, and they're like, okay, is he like, who is he? And you can't really disclose like this information. You're like, well, what happened? And they're like, he just walked out with like 30 guns. And you're like, oh, he did? Really? Okay. Well, why? And so I'm like calling him, and he's like in his uniform, all like in sweatpants, not even in his uniform. He has it with him. And he's like, did I scare them? I said, listen, they're not even going in the house. Like, they're not interested anymore. And he's like, oh no, should I put them back inside? And I was like, no, I think we need to go get like a safe or like something to not do that. And it's just realizing those situations. You're like, okay, how do I move forward from here? Or like, how would we do this? But it's just, you deal with so much that is out of your control, especially in this business. And you're just like, okay, let's put it back together. I promise they're out of the house. No biggie. No one's after him. He's just a part of the.
That's
so it's.
That's good. when we bought this house, we bought it from an Army Ranger, and he didn't get the guns out. So you'd like open the door, and behind the door there'd be a shotgun. He was ready. Um,
Yeah.
speaking of ready, you talked about goal setting and like how much of a goal setter you are. So this should be a slam dunk for you. Where are you going to be in 5 years?
So in 5 years, I want to at least have 6 investment properties. I actually just bought my first one, and
Congratulations.
I'm super excited. Thank you so much. It was just something that I've wanted to, and I don't have kids, and I'm just like, okay, in 5 years, if I want to retire, there's my retirement one, retirement two, or whichever. And so I did buy a beach house, and I'm so excited for it because I want to be able to grow like a Galveston office as well as like a Houston office. So I want to like this next year. I made a goal with because I'm partnered with Veterans United Home Loans, and they are amazing. And we did goal setting the other day, and I was like, listen, I told my coach, his name's Shane, and I said, Shane, I want to double my production next year. And he was like, oh my gosh. He was like, no way. And he's like, how are you going to do that? He goes, you're going to go crazy. And I said, I thrive on crazy. Like, I love to be so busy that I'm like, "Oh, what's my name?" But because when it's not, I don't know how to function. And it's becoming really hard. And it's just, I want each year, I want to steadily increase the production level, but I want to make it where it goes in and I can add people on to the team and make it more unified. Because right now it's literally my mom and I, and we are the two-man show. It gets crazy. So I think in 5 years, I want to have more structure, more team members, and I want to make it where we grow organically instead of forcefully.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear your goals, and I'm sure you're going to crush them. Um, you know, you've talked about a couple times, you talked about the title officer, the loan officer, the relationship you have with that lender. Like, what tricks and tips do you have for people around building those relationships? Because it sounds like it's really important to your success is having these people on your team.
So this is going to sound funny, but my loan officer we use, that is our go-to in our small little town. Of course, if we have veterans, we're going to send them to Veterans United and make sure that they're taken care of, and because they know what they're doing. They're the largest VA lender in the world, I think. They're incredible. So they got the VA loan down. But my local lender that I use, I actually, I met him at a county fair. We were sitting there and we were watching the kids. I know, I was like, this is going to sound crazy. And he is so intelligent. And I was like, okay, how do you do this? And like just the thought process and the theory, because some loan officers, they'll do A plus B equals C. And he's like, okay, let's dive into A, let's dive into B, and let's figure out C to get to our end goal. And after talking to him, I was like, oh my gosh, he's intelligent. And we were actually bidding on his daughter's lamb, and at the county fair, and we were like, okay, because we support our community as much as we can. And ever since then, that relationship, I mean, when you relate to like livestock and cattle and whichever that background, it helps because you're like, oh, how was that? Or you have something to talk about other than business, which is important. I know some people, they enjoy cooking and they'll be with lenders that like to cook or they'll like to do it. You have to have the same like-minded people, because when you wake up every day and you do the same thing over and over, it gets kind of depressing and you're just like, I can't do this. But if you do it with people you really enjoy working with, it makes the business so much better. And you're just like, okay, we're doing this. And we have a saying, and it's, if the lead comes in, I know some agents, they're scared to talk on the phone, which is crazy. They want to text. And I'm like, I want to call you. I want to hear your voice. I want to put a face to the name. I want to like the voice to the name. And so we have a saying that sits on my computer, and it says, call the damn lead. Because a lot of people, you're one out of 3 agents, and those 2 other agents, they texted and you made the personal call and made that connection. So that's kind of what we emphasize in our market.
Heather, sounds like your ability to connect with people, your empathy, your interest in helping them, just incredible, and congratulations on your success. I have no doubt you're going to hit those goals that you set out for yourself. Um, we're going to switch it up a little bit.
Okay.
Let's have some fun. We're going to jump into a lightning round. We're going to ask you a question, some real estate related, some just Heather related.
Okay.
You'll have 60 seconds or less to answer, but just learning a little bit more about you. Let's start with tell us about a book you've read that you would recommend for the audience.
Okay, so I struggle with really bad dyslexia, so I can't tell you I've ever completed a book. I kind of skim through, or I listen to the audio, but I do my, we have our affirmations, because sometimes you just got to boost yourself up, and I really enjoyed those. And I can't think of the name of it, but it was a strategic marketing strategy. And because when you're in this business and you work from home, the book was explaining like this husband who worked nonstop. He was on his phone. He was on his computer. There was no like interference with his work because he couldn't enjoy his family. He couldn't enjoy anything. He felt he was married to his job, and just trying to find that healthy balance, which I'm very guilty on, is just like making sure because you don't want to disappoint your clients. You don't want to not pay your bills. You don't. And so it's also like you want your family to know you're there and you're present. And that was kind of the book that we illustrated the other day in our book club. And I wish I knew the name of it on the top of my head, but I don't. But it was literally just, how do you separate work from personal? And it was so impactful. And it was like, okay, let's start shutting our phone off at 7. At 6, let's do our affirmations. Let's do our Bible study. Let's dive into the word. And then God will serve you, and he'll make sure that you're served if you're serving him. So I know some people are scared about the market in the future, and I'm like, if you read these books and you follow his word, he will serve those who serve him. And you will never be hungry or malnourished because he knows that you're there for him. And that's just kind of what we live by on our house.
Yeah, I love that. And your discipline to have that balance in your life is just fantastic. So for fun, if you had a time machine and you could go back to the day that you started this journey, what advice would you give yourself?
I would have said, quit teaching 6 months earlier. I wish I prolonged it, and I should have listened, but it's just having that confidence, because it's so crazy. The only person you can rely on is yourself, and self-employment's the best employment. You'll never get fired. So it's just one of those deals. And I was like, why was I so scared in trusting my own ability to do this? And that was the craziest part. And it took a lot of prayers. My preacher at my church, I used to not like to interfere real estate with my church activity, but now he's like, so how is it? How's the church going? Or how's real estate? So now everybody kind of knows. And I was like, I prayed for this for so long, and to see the success and everything and the relationships come with it, you're just like, this is so rewarding. And if I could have gone back, I'd have said, girl, you quit during Christmas break.
That's great. And the way you've been able to pull all of your worlds together, I think just has catapulted your career. It's great. Like, you've connected everyone and all the different parts. If you could have dinner with one person, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Oh man, this is challenging. Honestly, I would probably do Reba McEntire, because she is her own girl boss. I was going between Dolly Parton and Reba, because they are both so impactful in the lives of women. And especially if you watch Dolly Parton's documentaries and the time frame she's grew up in, to be at her level is incredible. And her goals and her, women were not allowed to do what she did back in those times. And I feel like that's very impactful for me. It's just to know, hey, you set these goals and you conquered them. And that's just kind of where I'm at. I want to conquer those goals. I want to keep pushing when everybody's pushing against you, to just keep going. And that's just kind of where I'm at. She's incredible.
That both great choices, by the way. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Tell me about what you did at work yesterday. Describe a normal day, or there is no normal day, I suppose. Give us a sneak peek into your day.
So I went in to a house for one of my investors, and we got infested by fleas. They were flying everywhere, so that was not fun. And people are always like, oh man, the hills look great. Not when they have like 100 different bugs on them. So it was just not very fun. And then we had to go to a luxury listing appointment after that. It was like $1 million home in the Woodlands. So you had to go from being flea infested to going to a luxury listing presentation. But that's just the reality of real estate. You can never plan a day, even though I'm so structured. I'm like, oh, that didn't go as planned. It just always does not work out.
Yeah. Does it ever go as planned?
Never.
There's a plan, and then there's deviation from the plan all the time, right?
Yes.
So how many pairs of shoes do you now own?
Oh, Lord. So I got me a Stitch Fix membership now because I'm always like, okay, we are going to get new clothes, but I don't like shopping because I'm very cheap. So I'm like, oh, that's $60. Like, oh no. But if it comes to my door and I don't have to go out and do that, then it's like, okay, I didn't spend the gas money to go get this shirt. It just came to my door. So I do have quite a few now. I do have a leopard obsession for some reason. I do like some leopard shoes and something to spice it up because I feel like black matches with everything. So I'm either in black pants or black shirts, and some spicy shoes are always so fun.
That's fantastic. I love it, and I hope you continue to build your shoe wardrobe and have fun with it.
I need a new closet.
Yeah. If listeners or viewers want to follow you, connect with you, how can they do so?
So I have a Facebook page, and it says Properties by Heather, which I kind of regret doing that now, but I wish I would have been like Heather Stenson Realtor, but my Instagram is Heather Stenson Realtor. And we also have the Stenson Group page, which I post on there all the time with all of our new listings that come in from the team. So we are the Stenson Group on Instagram and Facebook.
Heather, thank you for spending time with us today and sharing your journey. I know your story will inspire others interested in entering a career in real estate. I think you've given some great tips, great insights, great advice. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This has just been such a whirlwind and just something that you're looking at and you're just like, wow, I cannot believe I made it to this point. I can't believe I'm here. It's incredible. And I appreciate y'all giving me the opportunity to talk on this. It's just such an honor.
Thanks for listening to Unlocking Real Estate, My First Commission. We hope today's stories and insights gave you that extra spark to keep moving forward in your real estate career. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It helps us reach more listeners like you. And don't forget you can watch this or other episodes on our YouTube channel. We'd also love to hear from you. Send your comments, key takeaways, or recommendations for future guests to unlockingrealestate@colibrirealestate.com.